project, you would go to your drive. And the first thing you want to do is create a new folder. So I'm just going to make a folder in our my GAF folder here. So find wherever you want this information to live, and you'd create a new folder and say, call it student docs. You go into your student docs folder, and what you need to do is create a blank document with the name of every student, or the name of whatever it is you want the document to be called that you would share with the student. So I might make one for, and you can actually, this was a question that someone asked me last night, about how can I actually get information. So you'll see that document that I showed you of Jordan's actually has the little Green Industries name at the top and choose your own adventure. So you can actually put things in this document. So I could give it a header and say like GAF Summit 2015. I'll call this Sally. And so I've got my first document. Close that document. And then what you need to do is make a document for every student in the class. So I would right click on it and just click make a copy, and that way it just puts it in the same folder. If you copy it from the document, like if I had this document open and I clicked file, make a copy, it doesn't copy it right into the same folder. It copies it like somewhere else in your drive. So I find it's better to copy from this screen rather than from the document. And then I would just rename this one John. And then here's a little trick. You can actually click on both of these by holding the control button, click make a copy, and now you've got 4 instead of 2. And then you can click all 4, and then you've got 8. So you're not like clicking and clicking and clicking. So the setup takes a little time. So it definitely takes it'll take 20 minutes probably to set up the whole thing. Eventually you'd have your whole class of students here. And that's sort of the first step. The next step is go out of this folder. You want nothing else to be in this folder except for your student docs. You have to have only your student docs in this folder. You go back out here and you would click on new and then form. So you add a form. And this will be the form that either you fill out or your students fill out. So let's say I'm making a rubric for their DocAppender skills. Yeah. Yeah, so I have, the way I organize it right now is I have a folder for each class, and then each year, and then I'll have unit 1, and then these are my feedback sheets. So unit 1 feedback docs are there. The other thing you'll want to do is eventually go back and share this document with the student. There's other ways to do it, like I push it out through Hapara sometimes. If anyone uses Hapara, you can use the smart copy feature to make all the documents and then just go find them all and move them into one folder on your own drive. It's another way to do it. So the first question is going to be student name. And the trick here is to leave this blank. So take out option 1, leave it blank. I like to do checkboxes because then if I'm doing a quick assessment in class for students, I can check off more than one student at once, and they can all get the same feedback if all of them have the same comment. So do checkboxes, click done, then add your next item. So let's say I wanted to say like, I don't know, research skills. And then I would go through and add in like level 4, and whatever my comment was for level 4, I'd maybe put a comment in there, level 3. You can also set this up as a grid. There's different ways to do it. Yeah. It can be checkboxes. Yeah, it could be checkboxes, or you could do multiple choice, or you can do choose from a list. If it's something you're pushing out to students, like if it's an exit ticket in class, I would make it multiple choice or choose from a list, because that way they can only choose their own name. And they're pretty good. Like I've never had a student click someone else's name and like submit something goofy. It's not like if you throw up like a document where they're all working on where they start being goofy for some reason. I've never had that happen. They all just do the exit ticket with their own name. And as far as I know, anyways. I'm going to show you in a second how the students' names come in there. So I've got now my form with my research levels, and then maybe I add a comment box that I just do paragraph text. So now I've got this great little form here. that's just basically blank, right? So we don't have a student name yet. So the way we get the student name is through this add-on called DocAppender. So you go up to add-ons. Yeah. That's what I actually do. I actually just copy and paste from my rubric into there. And sometimes I'll have another question that just says comment, and then I'll copy and paste a whole bunch of different comments. If I find I'm writing the same comment on every student, then I'll just copy and paste it into like checkboxes. And then under comment, I can go and click checkboxes for all the ones that apply and hit submit. And then it appears as like a paragraph in there on their document. So you go to add-ons, you'd have to click on get add-ons, and then search for DocAppender. So you click get add-ons, you would do a search here for DocAppender. You can see it comes up actually. In your case, you would click add or install. It would install onto your thing, and then a little box will appear up here. So you click add-ons, you choose DocAppender, and you click open sidebar. And then the reason why we created this folder with all that just had the student names in it is because now you go to here, you pick from Drive. And I would go to, in this case, because I just worked on it, it pulls up the most recent one. If I couldn't find it, I might do a search to find that folder that I just created, but that's the folder I just created where all those documents that are named with the student live. So I check that off as the folder I want the DocAppender to basically put the information into. And then you go to next, and this comes up. It says like, what question do you want to populate with the student name? So in this case, you always have to hit refresh list for some reason. It's like a little quirk of the program. I would say student name. And then you just click save and populate question. And DocAppender pulls those student names in. So now you can see under student name, it's the name of every document that was in that folder. So whatever you name those documents is what's going to appear here. So if you named it John Unit 1 feedback, he when he sees the form, it would say John Unit 1 feedback. So whatever, you have to make sure that the names are the same. You can't then go in and change these names, or else the information will get lost. It won't go to where it's supposed to go. So then you click next, and then it asks you what students do you actually want to send, or what questions you actually want to send to the form. So in that project where I had a rubric that had multiple stages, I'll show you what that looked like in a minute, but I would only be marking one stage at a time. So I would just check off that particular stage. I don't send the student name to the doc because they already know that what their name is. And sometimes I'll do timestamp, like for an exit ticket in class, and that way I can see when the student did it. This case, I'm just going to not choose it because it's not really relevant. And then what you do down here is there's different ways that you can make it look. You can do separate bulleted points, which basically creates a bullet point for every question as the answer. You can also create a separate vertical table, which creates a table like the one that I showed you here. So this one here would be a vertical table, or you can choose a horizontal table, which looks like this one here. Horizontal tables really only work if you have like 3 questions or less. If you have any more than that, then the columns start to get really, really narrow, and then you can't really read it. So I usually use vertical columns. So I'm going to choose separate vertical tables, and then you just click enable. And now DocAppender is in action. So what I would do now is if I'm marking my students' work, I would open up my rubric. I would say, okay, John and Sally both got level 4, and I have a similar comment for them, which is like, you know, great research. Very boring comment, but I hit submit. So now that information normally in a regular form would go into my responses, which is your spreadsheet, right? So there we go. John and Sally both got a level 4. The one glitch about uploading into Markbook is if you do checks and you check off more than one student at once, then you have to go in later and like copy and paste because Markbook needs a different row for each student. But that's just a little glitch workaround thing. So now the other place that information went is if I go into my student docs folder and I open up John's document, there is the thing that he got. So it just like automatically goes into there super fast. So I'll show you what one of my like more complex rubrics looks like, and then I'm gonna set you guys free to try to set this up on your own. So where is it? So this would be like a more complicated rubric that I'd made. where you can see I've got all the students' research. This is where I've copied and pasted from my actual rubric. And then I give them a grade for each one. And so it's basically, but then I could check off when I was sending it. So if I was only marking their research in that phase where I ask what questions I want to send, I would say only send the research, and then they would only get that. So they wouldn't get a bunch of blank boxes. Another thing I did with them last year was actually had them do a report card reflection. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so you can always go back and change your DocAppender setup. So for example, on that form, this rubric here, I would go in here and I would go to add-ons again, go to DocAppender, open sidebar, and you can go back in and change it. You could change what document it goes to. So next year, I don't have to make a new rubric. I just have to redirect it to a new folder. So I've got this set up now. I'm not making a new rubric every year. I'm just redirecting. Yeah, exactly. So, and the other thing you can do is if, for example, you forget a student or you have a new student join your class, you just make a new doc, put it in that folder, go in here, just go through the next, hit enable at the end, and then the form actually changes live. So I've had students join my class after like the first week, and then they're like, oh, my name's on the list. And I just go in, add a document for them, hit enable, and then as they're watching it, they literally just like refresh their page and their name just suddenly appears on the list. What I do is like, so for example, like not all of these students were in one class. I had 2 sections of this class last year. So what I would do is actually just put them all in one form, and they just find their name on the form. So like I've got 2 sections of grade 11 this year, but rather than making 2 forms for everything, like you could make a copy of the form and have one for one class and one for the other. I just have one folder where I put both sections, and I just do it that way. It's fine. It's a little time. Where was I going to show you? Oh yeah, I did this one report card feedback where I had a question where I put their R3 grade in, and then I left these 2 blank, but it still sent it to their document. So then when they opened up their document, they would go in and they would see this blank spot. So this was like other rubrics that I'd given them, other feedback on things. But then here I put in your R3 grade, but then these 2 appeared blank. And I told the students, go open it, see what your R3 grade is, because the grade 12s especially always want to know what their R3 grade is. Go in, see what it is, and then do a little reflection on that. What are you happy with it? What's one thing you think you could do in order to improve? So you can leave blank documents and have them go through and do that. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it automatically comes up in the sheet, and you can choose it when you're in the DocAppender sidebar. When you choose what ones you want to go, you can, right here, timestamp is an option. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so they can move it around. There's different, depends on how you push it out. Like if I push it out through Hapara, then it automatically appears in their class folder. If I do it, like in this case where I've got the folder that I created for today, I would just go in and share it with the student. So then they'd have to go into their doc or their folder and find it, but then they can move it to wherever they want. So if I was, say, if I wanted to share this with John, say, I would just click share and then say share it with John. And then he would get a notification saying, Mr. Beth has shared a document with you, and then he'd have to go find it. And he can move it to wherever he wants in his folder. It doesn't affect where it is in yours. Okay, so going back to that's our little how-to video. I'm going to stop our live feed here.